again, and welcome to another episode of Outside the Echo Chamber. We are coming to you from inside the state capitol because it's another big day here, the start of another legislative session. And for the next 60 days, legislators will be going over issues important to you and your family. And right off the top, to talk about what we can expect over the next couple of months, are House Speaker Roger Hanshaw and Minority Leader Sean Hornbuckle. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Speaker, let me begin with you. This is a bit of a different year than what we saw last year. Ramping into the session in 2023, we saw a couple of big elephants in the room, the DHHR crisis and, of course, the PEIA issue with the shot across the bow from Jim Kaufman, the man in charge of the West Virginia Hospital Association, who basically said, if we don't get this fixed, we might have to stop accepting patients, and that kind of pushed everyone into action. Not so much an albatross this year of an issue like that, but is that a good thing or a bad thing? Are you guys excited and looking forward to maybe kind of a more mellow start to a session this year?
Well, there's always a lot to be done, and you're right, that issue did loom large last year. We did take a lot of action on it, but there is still some more to be done. So we do have a priority on making access to health care and making sure health care facilities to which we have access are adequate, and resourcing up our health care facilities, making sure that West Virginians have access to 21st century quality of care remains important. Last year it was crisis mode. That's not the case today, and we're all happy about that.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we stop trying to make it easier for West Virginians to get access to good quality care.
Well, that's important because there's no such thing as an unimportant issue. I mean, if it's being debated and discussed here in the Capitol, it's because there's someone that believes it's important for the people of West Virginia
That's
and the
right.
state. I know one thing that you've talked about that's close to you is child care. Can you talk a little bit about what you expect to introduce this
Well,
session?
I think that's important to all of us.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think that issue is one that we have strong support for on both ends of the building, across every stripe of our membership, because we know that to get men and women into the workforce, we have to make it economically advantageous for them to leave their homes and go to work. Mm-hmm. And if you have to spend a substantial portion of your paycheck on providing for your care for your children, then that incentive to enter the workforce is necessarily diminished. So we are going to focus on that this year. We are going to make a priority out of trying to increase opportunities for parents to get access to child care facilities. We took a bite of that apple last year. We created a program that provided a tax credit for employers to create their own child care facilities. And that's working. There are entities that are taking advantage of that, and we're happy about that. But it turns out to not be so easy if you're an entrepreneur or if you're a very small business.
Yes.
It's fine if you're a large, multi-hundred employer facility, but we want to ask the question this year: what do we do for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and that segment of
Remove
employers?
some of those obstacles.
That's
and
exactly
streamline
right.
it.
Yep.
I know one issue that you've talked about is legalizing marijuana here in the state. Is this a revenue opportunity that we're missing out on, in your opinion?
I think adult cannabis use is an opportunity for extra revenues to the state. I think as we get out of these years right now, we will see some potential issues with the budget. And so I think that would really, really help with us. We also know that we lead the state in veterans, right? And as far as that population, this is something from medicinal use that we've done an awful lot of work on. That would be good. But I think it's time for us to do that. And plus, we don't want to be the last in the game. That's very important that West Virginia is able to do that. And if you allow me to, Rick, I'd like to go back to the child care.
Sure.
Very, very appreciative of the speaker. Since my time here at the West Virginia legislature, he has been willing to work across the aisle, and I find that very, very important. I don't want that to go unnoticed. We also want to make sure, just not for entrepreneurs and small business owners, but to the everyday rank and file people, that we're able to afford them that opportunity, because we've done an awful lot with tax credits and things of that nature, but sometimes people don't have the money currently right now. So we have to figure out a way to give people a hand up as well in those situations, because they will be able to enter the workforce to add to our state's base.
And even if you do have the money, finding a facility that has open spots available to accept your children is a barrier. So we study this one a lot. We expect to take some action on this.
Yes.
And you talked about, making sure that it's helping everyday West Virginians as well.
Yes, sir.
The moms and dads that need that child care.
Absolutely.
Probably important during a time when we're seeing these kinds of record surpluses to make sure that money is going back into the communities and into the families.
We have to
and
do
making
that.
sure that they're taking advantage of that as well.
We do, but we have to make sure we don't create a situation in which we give somebody a benefit that we know is going to go away.
Correct.
Right?
You want to make sure that it's monies that last forever.
That's exactly right.
Because that's the cliff, right? You get used to that, and then it's taken out from underneath you, then there's nowhere to go. And then we're right back at square one. So we can ill afford to do that. We're going to have to be very measured, thoughtful, and deliberate in our approach to try to fix this for our state.
Well, that's always the challenge, right? To figure out how to do something, especially if you're doing permanent money that can last and that's
Yes.
sustainable.
Which potentially maybe that's, and I think there should be some innovative ways that we will, each person come up with, and then we'll work together to do that. But going back to your first question, potentially maybe that's something that adult use cannabis could help to fund.
And what's the research been on some of the states that got in the game early, like Colorado? Have they seen a windfall from this?
Well, Colorado, especially their governor right now, Polis, they're giving money back to their constituents in their state because they've had so much revenue from it. And that's going to be one of our main things, especially from our caucus. We're putting people and money first. Everything that comes before us, we want to make sure that, number one, it is helping the people of West Virginia. All right? It has to pass that litmus test. Number two, is it saving them money or putting money in their pockets? And that's how we'll govern this year.
You started off by thanking the speaker for
Yes.
his work and being able to work across
Yes.
the aisle. As the new minority leader, we've seen over the course of the last couple of decades a seismic shift in
Yes.
the way that the legislature in West Virginia is composed. With the numbers that you have, how important is it for you and basically for everybody, for the Republican Party as
Yes.
well, to be able to find some sort of compromise with the numbers the way they are?
Yes.
It's quite a challenge,
Correct.
but sometimes you have to be the loudest voice in the room to make sure that you're heard.
Yes.
And it's important for both parties to understand that both sides do at least need to be heard.
It's quite the challenge. The elephant, if you will, in the room is we only have 11, but
Right.
we're strong. We're a mighty 11. We're very talented. My standpoint, under my leadership, we will always strive to work in a bipartisan manner. That is the only way that West Virginia can move forward. Make no mistake about it. However, we will stand up to extremism. We have always been the adult in the room, the watchdog for the state. We will continue to do that. And so, again, we will lead by bipartisanship, but we're also going to stand up to things that just don't make sense for everyday West Virginians.
And Speaker, I've said this before, but a lot of times politics thrives on conflict, and when there is no conflict, it gets created in a way. With the numbers that the Republicans have, is there a worry there? Is there a challenge for you that it might fracture the party and go into different factions because you need some people to start butting heads?
Well, you began the segment today by saying something that is a complete truism, which is that, well, every idea is important to somebody, right? And sometimes those ideas are easy to coalesce support around. Sometimes they're
Not so
easy
much.
to drive support away from. And I think it's important to recognize that nobody has a monopoly on good ideas. We will take a good idea and run with it from wherever it comes. We'll take a good idea from any member, from any district, from any part of the state, and I don't care how she or he's registered. We'll take a good idea and run with it. Sean and I have been on the same travel circuit for the last couple of years, promoting West Virginia out around the country. And when we do that, rarely does anyone ask who's the Republican and who's the Democrat. No one cares.
They don't.
Well, that sets a good example for everyone else in the country to see a state that can get along.
At this point, Rick, I think under his leadership as Speaker of the House, maybe he should have the first ever Democrat majority leader. We need to figure our way out to do this.
There you go. Breaking news. Okay, tonight will be the final state of the state from Governor Jim Justice, and perhaps Baby Dog. We'll see if the dog makes an appearance or not.
Yes.
But what can you expect, or what do you expect from that speech tonight? I'm sure he'll be touting some of the recent developments with the economy, with these jobs that are coming in, and with the budget and the surplus. But what do you expect him to say tonight?
Well, we haven't seen a speech, so I don't know, but I'll speculate. I think you're right. You can expect to hear the governor talk about some of the recent economic development announcements. So last week we heard LG announce that it's going to invest $700 million here in West Virginia. And I want to really pause for a minute and underscore the importance of that particular announcement. So that's not the largest investment we've ever seen, nor is it the first. But what it is the first investment we've seen in what I'm calling the knowledge economy. Right. So we've seen some heavy industry announce new jobs. Nucor's is building a steel mill here, and that's awesome. We've seen Berkshire Hathaway and titanium melt announce a titanium manufacturing facility in Ravenswood. That's awesome.
So basically, the old school West Virginia,
that's
manufacturing,
exactly
natural
right.
resources. This is more of a transition into the diversifying the
Absolutely.
economy.
It 100% is, and everything that Sean and I have been talking about in terms of economic diversification, creating new opportunity for new kinds of people, for new segments of the workforce, this investment represents that.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off of that, where we're moving to is very important. It's much needed, but we've got to get back and make sure we focus, not just get back on the blocking and tackling, is our education system. We have done a good job with that. I know last year the Senate sort of worked with us, and it was actually an idea that came from the speaker a couple of sessions ago on having the teacher aides in the classroom. That was very, very important. One of the things that we're also seeing currently with the Hope Scholarship, we have to find a way to maybe augment that a little bit. We've seen in some instances where state dollars are leaving the state, and so we really want to make sure we buckle down on our public education system, because we are doing such a good job with new industry coming to West Virginia. We've got to make sure that all of our children are able to secure those jobs in the future.
There's some talk that the governor will once again get behind a 5% across the board pay raise for teachers. Is that something that you'd support?
I want to support a pay raise, but I want to make sure it's long lasting. I don't want to go down this road where we're just throwing something, a Band-Aid on something. Our educators, they need, not just educators, but state workers, they need raises, but I want to make sure it's long lasting.
Yeah, we would support permanent raises rather than one-time, if that's the question, rather than one-time payments or one-time bonuses. I think the governor will call tonight for an actual pay raise.
Okay, that will be not just for this year, for next
year.
year.
Yeah, I don't expect that at all, nor do I think we'd be interested in that.
Correct.
Okay, and what else do you think is there any surprises, do you think, in store for tonight?
There's always surprises.
Well, there's always a surprise, right? That's the purview of the person giving the speech.
Any baby dog appearances? Any visual aids?
That's up to the governor.
Okay, so back on focus here on what you gentlemen will be doing in the House. Just talk to West Virginians a little bit about what your goals are for the next 2 months and what they can expect from the Republican leadership in the House.
Sure. I have said many times, I'll continue to say, my priority as leader of the Majority Caucus is enacting policy that makes it easier for those who are interested in choosing West Virginia to do so. That choice comes in two forms: the choice to stay if you're already here, or the choice to come to West Virginia if you're outside the borders looking in. So our general focus is on quality of life, quality of economic opportunity, quality of educational opportunity, and just the aggregate choice of West Virginia.
And Sean, what opportunities do you see from the minority party to be able to get some of your agenda through?
Absolutely. So to work in collaboration, that's one of our primary focuses. But we want West Virginians to be able to learn and earn. We want to be able to focus on our educational system, whether that's K through 12, higher education, certification programs, getting people into the workforce. Earning, with the new jobs that are coming, we want to make sure that everybody can have a decent paycheck to go home. Obviously, as the speaker said, we want people to stay here, but we got to give them a reason to stay. We got to make sure we're inviting to all West Virginians and to play. We want to make sure that our retirees, our young professionals, that you have something to do. After you put in a long, harsh day of work, you've got to be able to enjoy West Virginia.
Well, one thing's for sure, we don't expect the Senate to cram through 250 bills today like they did on the first day of session last year, so maybe that'll be a nice way to ease into things.
A nice surprise, if you will.
Yeah, there you go. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us today. Sean Hornbuckle, Minority Leader in the House, and House Speaker Roger Hanshaw. And we'll talk to Senate leadership right after this as Outside the Echo Chamber continues.
At Dutch Miller Automotive, we've grown quite a bit over the last 60 years, but our core principles remain the same. We believe in treating our customers and our team members like friends and family, and we see it as our obligation to give back to all the communities we are so fortunate to do business in. In just West Virginia alone, we've grown from one location on the west end of Huntington to 10 rooftops employing more than 500 Mountaineers. Check out the inventory from all of our stores at DutchMillerAuto.com. Dutch Miller Automotive Group, West Virginia proud.
At CAMC, our focus has always been on building better healthcare for you. Our new Center for Learning and Research combines cutting-edge technology with hands-on experience for physicians, nurses, and other caregivers. Using specially designed simulation rooms and robotics with expert instruction, our learners expand their expertise. Because you deserve the most advanced care possible, now and in the years to come. Welcome to the future of medicine.
The HD Media Plus app is your ticket to see all the action on the hard court as it happens.
Saunders with the three.
Sam banks it in! Sam from three buries it off the glass! And the Red
Dozens of live games that you won't see anywhere else, featuring some of the best teams in the state. Watch the game live or later at your convenience, and the best part, it's free. Download the HD Media Plus app today to your smartphone or TV so you won't miss another shot. Welcome back inside the state capitol as we continue on this episode of Outside the Echo Chamber on the opening day of session in 2024. Joining me now, Senate leadership, President Craig Blair from the Republican side of things, and Minority Leader Mike Woelfel. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I want to begin by kind of going back 1 year. Last year, you know, the two elephants in the room were the big DHHR crisis and the PEIA issue with that shot across the bow from Jim Kaufman, kind of spurring people into action. But the Senate made headlines by basically getting dozens of bills fast-tracked on that first day of 2023. I don't think that we're expecting that type of action in 2024. Is that accurate, President?
Well, we're going to do it a little bit different this year. We still have the fast-track bills, and these are bills that passed unanimously or near unanimous. And there's like 30 of them this year, and we're going to read them in today, and the second time tomorrow, and the third time on Friday, and pass them out on Friday and send them to the House. Look, I like getting the business of the people done. We did them last year, and we got the same senators. Nothing has changed from that standpoint. So we're not passing out something that was a close vote or anything like that. So this is taking care of the housekeeping and getting them across the finish line earlier. But we're doing it a little bit different this year.
Talked about those issues last year. One of the issues that's making headlines this year is something that you've brought up that you would be in favor for, and that's capital punishment for certain drug dealers, essentially, especially dealing with fentanyl. If you would, talk a little bit about why you would back that and what you hope it would accomplish.
Okay, this is Craig Blair, but I've got the support of my caucus on this because I've asked him before I brought it out. But the fact of the matter is that, look, what we're doing is not working when it comes to fentanyl. Over 70% of marijuana has fentanyl on it. What I'm saying is that we need to have capital punishment for the illicit manufacturer and the wholesale distribution of fentanyl. And we're not going to have a big debate on whether they're going to put them down with the electric chair or a gas chamber. Use the same poison that they're putting in our people to put them down with. Now, the fact is do I think it's going to happen? No. When I'm talking about somebody being put to death. But it will, these drugs travel the least resistance, like water. And if we put something up that makes it so that these drug cartels know that you got a chance to be put to death in the state of West Virginia for doing this, then they'll steer clear of West Virginia and they'll go somewhere else.
So let me clarify. You're saying that you think you could get the law passed, but that you don't think in practice that anyone would ever be put to death, although you're saying that just the fact that might happen could be a deterrent. Is that accurate?
Yes, I very much so believe it'll be a deterrent.
Do you support that?
Well, let me back up and first address what President Blair said about the bills moving earlier through the session. I think leadership got quite a bit of unnecessary and undeserved criticism about the way that was done last year. Every bill that came out early the first day and moved out of the Senate had been vetted through committees. And we're going to see that again this year, although not on the first day, but my anticipation is that there will be 20 bills or some number like that will come out quickly. And I agree with that, and I think the criticism is unwarranted for this reason. The public had opportunities to speak and to appear at committee meetings. The senators, I'm very comfortable with each of those bills. I've voted on those bills. I've supported those bills previously. I understand the bills. So to get them good legislation very early in the session over to the House where they can take a look at it, I think is just good management. So I wanted to start with that. I think we took a lot of criticism and it was unfortunate and undeserved.
It is a typical process. I think the counter argument to that was the volume of the bills. There were so many of them, and it seemed to, the optics of it were that you were undercutting and then shortcutting.
No, the optics of it was that corporate America looks and says they're passing out 30 bills on the very first day. over to another chamber. We're moving at the speed of business, not the speed of government. That helps be an economic driver for the state of West Virginia and attract businesses in. And Mike, if I remember right, several of those bills were minority bills.
So I had at least two or three bills that are very important to me and to my community and to my constituents, and I want those to the House as quickly as I can get them there. So I just wanted to start by saying that I felt like that, and there'll be the same criticism this cycle, and it's not fair. Now, the death penalty. This is where, respectfully, we're going to disagree. I personally, I'm an old altar boy, and I'm pro-life, and I don't think, respectfully to my president, you can't be pro-life and pro-death. I mean, the death penalty death row has been filled with people that have been exonerated over the years. And so the death penalty, I just don't see us heading in that direction. It's not the direction we should go. Also, respectfully, there's a case out of Louisiana entitled Kennedy versus Louisiana, in which the United States Supreme Court, Justice Roberts' court in 2008, declared that, respectfully, this type of bill is unconstitutional under the 8th Amendment because it's cruel and unusual punishment to put somebody to death if, in fact, they didn't intend the death of the other party, or if the other party didn't, in fact, die. So we want to fight this drug fight. I'm a former prosecutor, so I certainly don't want us to be as aggressive as we can be with drugs. We're in a tsunami of fentanyl, and certainly we need to attack that with everything we have. Respectfully, I'm opposed to bringing back the death penalty, because once you do it for one thing, then it's on something else, and it's another crime, and next thing you know, we're putting people to death that may or may be innocent. And once that happens, you can't make it right once they're dead.
Yeah, the fentanyl problem and drug problem as a whole is a very nuanced issue, and there are various points where you could try to make a difference before it even gets into the state, while they're using it. It's tough to come up with a blanket solution. Do you have any alternatives or anything that you could come up with that would make a dent in it?
Well,
at various points.
America is like a sieve, whether it's coming from China through the ports or whatever. The drugs are going to come in. It's the drug war. So there are a lot of things that have been tried and failed. I will say this: we have to have a different standard for teenagers giving out a pill to his buddy or selling it that contains fentanyl, and a major drug dealer. And I think the president agrees with that.
That's my point whenever I'm talking about the capital punishment and the wholesale distribution of it, right, and the manufacturer. I'm not getting down into the weeds from that standpoint of being able to manage it.
Going after the big guys.
Right. Here's where I disagree with my good friend on this, is that I'm pro-life, okay? But I'm about protecting the innocent and making sure that the guilty, and we can tell stories over stories after stories where people have been poisoned to death by this fentanyl. We need to do something different from what we're doing. This is an attempt to do just that. And I never I'm in favor of capital punishment, but I've always said capital punishment for without doubt murder. So for instance, O.J. Simpson wouldn't have qualified for that because that wouldn't have been the case. But if somebody come in here and shot...
So you're saying obvious guilt, where there's multiple witness on video, something like that?
Yes. Now, you need to be able to expedite the process on that and be able to stop some of those behaviors. And it is a deterrent. I don't care what anybody says about that. Knowing that you've got a risk for that. But Mike makes a point, and I worry about that a little bit, and that is that it has a chain reaction. It becomes one thing.
Slippery slope.
Yeah, after another. But the slippery slope, we are here to do the will of the people. And if we're doing the will of the people, then we stop that slippery slope, unless the people are wanting that. So,
Senator Woelfel, I know one of the things that you're big on this session is a child tax credit. If you could just go into briefly what that is and why you think it would be so important for families here.
West Virginia has a child poverty rate of 25%, and it's rising. We're 49th in our workforce participation. So we've got to get people to work. These folks that have young children want to work. They want to go into an apprenticeship program. They want to go to school. They want to go to beauty school. They want to go to college. They can't afford it because child care is so expensive. So it seems to me my bill would reimburse money that's been paid out by the person, by the taxpayer.
For like child care?
Yeah, it's not a giveaway. It's money reimbursing maybe 50%, 40% of what they pay out. My approach is like a scalpel and not with a shotgun. If you make $100 grand, you wouldn't qualify for this. If you make $20,000 a year, you would qualify. So it's on a sliding scale. I think the top would be around $60,000. But these are folks that they need to work. The second person in the household may want to work, has young children, can't do it. So, I mean, it's economic development. To me, it should be bipartisan, and we can find the money to do this and keep our people in the state, because folks will leave if they can't support their families.
And that's one of the challenges when you have these surpluses that we're seeing now, is that everyone says, okay, well, let's use some of that money for my cause or for my cause. And before you know it, you're spreading yourself out thin. What are some of the issues that you're going to get behind this year?
Spreading yourself out too thin.
Right.
Okay, you said thin, it's too thin. We always have to be cognizant of the resources that we have and keep that flywheel, the momentum in place, so that we've got more resources to be able to invest in ourselves into the future. And we've done a really, really, really good job at doing that at this point in time. And I want to be able to keep that moving forward for the people of West Virginia.
Now tonight we're getting the final State of the State from Governor Jim Justice, perhaps Baby Dog as well, we'll see. What do you expect from that speech this evening?
I don't know. The one thing I do expect is he's going to offer up a 5% pay raise across the board
for teachers,
for the teachers, school service personnel, and the state employees. That I think that will be the main thing. There'll be infrastructure. This governor has done a good job at working with us to be able to get a lot of these capital improvements and the things that we've done to make it so that we're on, of course, a trajectory of success. You know how many people is drawing unemployment right now in the state of West Virginia? Drawing an unemployment check, 6,198. That was the latest numbers. That's really low. Really low. And so I'm with Mike, though, on that we need to be able to make it so that we can get our people into the workforce, get them being taxpayers, not tax takers, and keep everybody working in West Virginia. When you do that, you end up having more families, more prosperity, upward mobility. This is what we're trying to provide for our people.
Let me change it up a little bit for you, Senator Woelfel. Instead of asking what you expect tonight, what do you hope to see tonight from the governor?
I hope to see the governor support my child care tax credit. There's a possibility he may do that because, in my view, it's time to, we helped the high income earners last session, we helped the middle income earners. I think we now need to focus on the working poor, so to speak, the low end of the middle class, folks that want to get into the workforce and can't afford it. Also, I'm hoping the governor addresses pay raises for public employees. Our teachers are underpaid, school service personnel, and other public employees to keep up with the PEIA.
Would you like to see a permanent raise?
Yeah, I would. Actually, we can afford it. The money's there. I don't know what the number, whether it's 4% or 5% or some number in that range. I haven't looked at the revenue that we expect, but yeah, I would like to see a permanent 5% pay raise or something in that range.
We talked to Minority Leader Hornbuckle on the House side about the dwindling numbers from the Democratic Party on that side. It's exacerbated perhaps even more in the Senate now. You're one of 3 Democrats in that chamber. What kind of challenges does that present to you, where sometimes you have to be the loudest voice in the room when you're basically overwhelmed by Republicans?
Well, I can say this. We have a caucus of 3 fairly seasoned, nimble leaders, and Senator Plymel and Senator Caputo. But I don't think I have to yell to get my point across. And you just have to be prepared, have good ideas, flesh them out with facts. And my experience is that this Senate president will listen. Now, he doesn't always agree, but I know you were being a little bit facetious when you say you have to yell to be heard. I think I can be heard without yelling, and that's a plus.
Senate President Craig Blair, what do you expect over the next 60 days from the Republican Party, and what can the people of West Virginia expect from you?
We're continued prosperity and setting the things in place that makes it so that West Virginia is the best place to work, live, and raise a family. You're going to see us take more legislation into the classroom, being able to help our teachers be able to do a better job. You're going to see us take a deep dive phase 2 on DHHR, looking at those things. BREM, tax reductions when it comes to the unemployment tax. By the way, we passed legislation that made it so that companies got tax credits for setting up daycare. We just did that last year, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so we recognize what you're talking about on that. We have to take steps forward on that, and that's what Mike's talking about.
I know one of the things
so
that
work together.
One of the things that gets a lot of pushback is when we start getting into social issues, and a lot of times there are people that why are Republicans, and in their opinion, wasting their time on this type of thing when there are so many more important issues, and they're focused on what they call bills that, in their view, either discriminate or marginalize people. Are we going to go down that rabbit hole again this year? Are there some social issues on the agenda that you foresee coming up that might cause some blowback?
I can't answer that question because I don't know of anything like that. But this is the citizens' process. They elect these people here. They introduce bills. If bills gain traction, they pass. And if they don't gain traction, they don't pass. It all depends on what the issue is. We've done a lot when it comes to conservative social issues in the state of West Virginia already. So, the low-hanging fruit's not there any longer, but I don't know where more to go with that.
Well, and then that becomes incumbent on the Democratic Party, 3 strong, to make sure that, keeping them in check, so to speak, the checks and balances in play here. Where I'm sure you have a lot of people that go to your office and say, why are they dealing with this issue of either whether it's LGBTQ issues or transgender issues, when there's so many other issues that affect the broader West Virginia population?
We do hear that criticism. Let me redirect for a minute to foster care.
Yes.
Because foster care is something we agree on. Not making this about myself, but the Senate President has given me some resources to work with in the summer and fall, and we've come up with about 10, I think, exceptionally good bills to really address foster care. We as a group at the Senate has taken criticism over not working hard enough on foster care. I don't think that's deserved. We broke the agency up, but these bills are specific bills that will improve the lives of our foster children. We're number 1 really in the country
per capita, yes,
in our children that are in foster care. And our foster care system is broken. So many kids that I know about through my law practice, sexual abuse, physical abuse, left in abusive homes by some social workers that aren't paying attention, supervisory issues within DHHR. On the other hand, you've got some of the most motivated, altruistic people that work for DHHR. So my long-winded point would be, I believe that the Senate will bring out a number of really good bills, as many as a dozen maybe, that will start the process of improving the way foster care services are delivered for the children of our state.
As succinctly as possible, over the next 60 days, what can West Virginians expect from the Democratic caucus? 3 strong again in the Senate this year.
Well, we're going to try to improve the lives of everyday people. I'll echo some of the things that the president said. We've got to make our state available to the point where folks want to come here, but also the folks that are here can afford to get out and work. And again, we've got to take care of our most vulnerable residents, our foster children.
Senate President Blair, what's your vision for a successful session in 2024?
Prosperity for the people of West Virginia. That's almost everything that we're doing is focused in on that. I've said this twice, 3 times in this conversation. We work proactively instead of reactively in trying to address things. When we talked about the DHHR, that lagged behind 1 year of when it should have been broken up sooner. The dividends are being paid from that. The list goes on how we're going about being proactive and looking for what we can do. Keep in mind, the flatline budget that we had has squeezed out efficiencies in the state of West Virginia. It's actually made it so that we've developed an awareness where if you threw money at it and everything, it just made the problem stay hidden. When you quit throwing money at it, then the problem festers up, and it gives us an opportunity to work together to solve that problem long term in a 21st century environment. That's a big deal.
All right, well, we will see what transpires over the next couple of months. I'm sure there'll be a lot of things to dive into. I'm sure we'll be talking to both of you gentlemen much more as the session rolls on. Senate President Craig Blair, thank you.
Thank you.
Minority Leader Mike Woelfel, we appreciate your time today, and thank you for joining us. We'll be right back to wrap up another episode of Outside the Echo Chamber after this.
When it comes to surgical care, you want the best hands behind the robot. And those are ours. Choose Mon Health. Feel the difference.
Are you ready to unlock a future filled with remarkable pay, unbeatable benefits, and unparalleled satisfaction? Imagine embarking on a journey that offers you a college-level education without the weight of debt, all while earning a steady income. Look no further than the West Virginia Building and Construction Trades Apprenticeship Programs. Join us, and together, let's build a future that's brighter and stronger. Go to actwv.org to apply today. The West Virginia Building and Construction Trades, where the future is forged.
Welcome back inside the state capitol. That's going to do it for another episode of Outside the Echo Chamber. As another state session is underway here under the Gold Dome, we will be with you throughout this session, bringing you the issues that are important to you and your family. We want to thank our guests today, Senate President Craig Blair, Senate Minority Leader Mike Woelfel, and on the House side, House Speaker Roger Hanshaw and Minority Leader Sean Hornbuckle. We will be doing 2 shows a week for the duration of the session, so please check back and make sure that you're tuning in as we discuss these issues that are going to affect all West Virginians over the course of the next 2 months. Until then, I'm Rick Lord. Take care.